Great dude today, Dana. Mike Birbiglia. I'd like to buy a vowel.
Birbiglia, yes.
Birbigs, known as...
Birbigs.
If you don't have time, you say Birbigli. And you lose the A. Save time.
Yeah. Mikey B. By the end of the podcast, we were very good friends. Mikey B. has a new special on Netflix, The Good Life. Mm-hmm. He's one of the great storytellers we have out there. And he'll deep dive into his methodology about having a theme where he can go kind of serious and funny. It's very interesting.
Yeah, explains a one-man show. What's the difference between a stand-up set? Went to Georgetown, did a comedy contest early on. I did at ASU also. So we had that. Oh, we talked about that. We kicked and scratched about that. He's a sleepwalker. We make fun of him for that.
He does sleepwalk, and there's some danger involved, and it's a long story, and it's something that's been a big part of his zeitgeisty material.
Right. And if you don't know him, he's a well-respected comic out there in the New York circuit. Give it a listen, and you'll know him more. We like to get people on here that you may not be a household name yet, but very close, and sure he will be.
He writes, he directs movies. He did a Sleepwalker movie, and he's working on a new one. So he breaks down his methods for us.
Yeah.
And we have a bunch of laughs. So stay tuned.
Oh, whoa.
Wow. As I live and breathe.
Yeah.
As I live and breathe.
Has anyone ever told you that you kind of, when you smile, there is like your long lost cousin, Bob Odenkirk, just in this.
Oh yeah, I just thought of that.
I do get Odenkirk sometimes. We shot a pilot once for CBS like 15 years ago where he played my brother.
Oh, okay. So
I buy it.
So
I guess that the one that didn't go?
That's the one that didn't go. Yeah.
We heard that saved your career getting away from Bob.
Yeah, whatever happened to him.
And Nick Kroll.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the executive that passed on it. I mean, if it's something like that, you just say yes. Even if the show sucks, you go, yes, let's get all these guys under a deal. And then you start changing it or whatever you want to do.
That's right.
Sometimes I think that. I go, why are you passing on this package? It's too good.
Did you think it was bad? Because, I know Bob Odenkirk fairly well. And he would be... comedy is really, really important to Bob, to say the least.
Thank you.
No, it's great.
No, you guys are so funny.
He's awesome. He said the single word non sequitur, but since you're smiling and you know him, the single maybe funniest thing that's ever been said on the podcast. Because we knew Bob when he was like an underling. He was like on SNL and stuff. But I always loved him, and he's a writer, but he's kind of struggling. It's in his book. He comes on our Zoom and Better Call Saul was kind of like, he knew comedians have like, what the fuck, Bob Odenkirk. Now he's like winning Emmys as an actor. And then when he did Nobody or the fighting one, what was that called?
Yeah, Nobody.
Yeah. And he said to himself, if this thing works, man, you guys are going to be going, what the fuck?
Yeah. And everyone
He's an action star now? It's just like, because we know Bob from before. So it's funny.
And there's a sequel, Dan.
We're going to let you talk in a sec, but I just want to say.
No. We don't need to do that.
No, I mean, Odenkirk, he came to the filming of The Good Life because he's in town doing Glengarry Glen Ross, and he's just like a deeply supportive person of, I think, comedians. He's just really good to fellow comedians.
Yes.
Good dude overall.
He, if I'm not mistaken, he wrote Living in a Van Down by the River.
You are not mistaken.
You are not mistaken.
Gave one of the biggest gifts to SNL.
By the way, do you remember when we met? This will be a really quick story. You may not.
I opened for you in Rhode Island at a college. Is that what
That's it? But I was on some kind of doing a little mini tour zone. I had a friend of mine, Mark Pitt, was my opener, and no one told me that they booked an opener. So when we showed up, they go, "This guy Mike wants to go up," and and you don't come off like a cocky guy. You're kind of unassuming. I go, "Oh no, what's this fucking guy going to do?
What's he going to do?
We really need him. I didn't know you. Do we really need him? Oh yeah." So, I'm thinking,
Oh, yeah.
this is going to be a
You need 'em.
clusterfuck. This guy, I'm not getting good vibes. So then I'm watching you.
Not good vibes. What the
Well, because
fuck?
Mike is unassuming and quiet. And then I'm watching the show. I'm like, he's building and building. I went, holy shit, this guy is
he's
great.
good. Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice.
I thought it at the time, and I do not think I followed you correctly. I think you left a wake because it was clever and stuff. I made some faces, did some funny sounds, and after
No.
after
You
10
crushed.
minutes,
It was like
they were done.
It was like, you absolutely crushed. It was, I don't think I'd never seen you live, but I grew up on both of you guys on SNL. So I would do in 7th grade. I remember I was doing at school, Church Lady, Hans and Franz, George Bush Sr.
I'm so sorry.
And by the way, killing. Like literally doing your characters. No one really knew what they were from SNL. So I was just I was like the 7th grade hack.
So they didn't know you were
the
from
modem
SNL. So you're doing your new character in junior high called
character.
the Church Lady, like that.
Yeah,
Really?
exactly.
And killing with it.
I was killing.
Do you
with
want to
SNL
do it?
characters.
I'd be
I
flattered.
would never. I would never. It would be the most embarrassing thing I could possibly do.
That's an easy one to do, but
Well, everybody. I mean, that's one of the things about your impressions is that your impressions are so good.
Thank you.
I mean, your Biden is so crazy good that essentially it's that thing in culture where everyone retrofits their Biden.
Yeah.
Everyone goes, now wait a minute.
It's like walking.
Now hold a
everyone
second.
turns into a walk-in at a certain point. You go, oh, now I can do it. It's like a home kit.
And guess what? And by the way, it was the non sequitur. Guess what? And by the way,
Guess what?
The fact of the matter is, I'm not getting around here. I'm being serious.
I'll knock you out, Jack.
Get your facts
Calls
straight,
people-
Jack. I'll beat the hell out of you. Take my
Yeah,
wood
he calls
shut.
people Jack.
Yeah. Yeah.
How would I have known about the cancer? They couldn't have known. They don't do checks for that kind of thing.
There you go.
What if they knew about the cancer for 4 years? It's like another thing. They're like, what? There's another thing we kind of spaced out.
Okay. So I used to do SNL impressions in 7th grade, and then I remember here's the mistake I made. I did John Lovitz's Annoying Man.
And
If people
so
don't know the
funny.
character,
I
he
do.
just shows up. Yeah, Dennis shows up to Dennis Miller's update, and he just goes, "Annoying man." He puts his fingers around his eyes and shit. I did it to this guy in class named Kenny, who was tough, and I go, "Kenny, annoying man." Fucking, I don't know if I can say curse.
You can't curse.
Socked me in the face. Socked me in the face. Bleeding in science class, 7th grade. And I never did Annoying Man again.
Don't
Off
you
of
love
Lovett's
the
bit?
character? The
Yeah.
name of the character is who the character is.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that. The Annoying
We
Man
did too
is
much of that
annoying.
back then. I think Sandler was Crazy Spoon Man and
And he had a crazy spoon.
Opera Man. We had a lot of mans
I
on the
love
show.
Nail on the Head Productions, man.
I don't think they do it as much anymore like that. Just straight up. Here's what it is.
What do you think, Mike?
Just building it out from who the people are.
How
you mean?
comedy is started, because we would have little jingles like "He's massive, massive head wound, Harry," or "Lyle, the effeminate, heterosexual." And when I was out there, I asked them, and they said, "Oh, we don't do that anymore." Well, I guess it's out of fashion, but to me, it's so funny to lay it all out like that, present it.
I think my favorite analysis of SNL through the years, because I've watched it since I was a kid. I still watch it. Is when Seth Meyers said every single episode since the beginning of time, some of it is great, some of it's terrible, some of it's okay.
Yeah,
And it's never changed.
very true.
No, it's never changed. That's why we don't have a plethora of other live sketch shows in America. Except now they're going to do one in Great Britain, I guess, Saturday Night Live and jolly old London. So, but yeah, it's not easy, and you're humiliated half the time. You kind of just it didn't really happen. It didn't happen. The audience knows it didn't happen. Lorne Michaels know it didn't happen, and you kind of just blew it.
I made a movie. I don't know if you guys know this. I made a movie called Don't Think Twice years ago about Michael Keegan, Gillian Jacobs are part of like an improv group where everyone's best friends. And then one of them gets cast on like a Saturday Night Live type of show called Weekend Live. And then everyone else doesn't. And it's about what happens in friendships when people realize they're not going to get the same thing. Did you guys have that when you guys got it?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. That's going back to the improv and seeing people you saw. And now you got a heat on you. And, but I watch people do it before me and after. So it's always just an odd, and then you get on SNL and it's the same thing. People get in sketches and all their stuff gets on that week and yours does. And you go, hey, good job. Go get them.
Yeah.
It is a funny thing.
It's so hard to cover. You're like,
because you're coming from your stand-up scene and your friends, and then suddenly you're on television and they're not, and it's just kind of awkward. Bobby Slayton was like, I can't believe this on Saturday Night Live. I can't believe it. What the fuck? I can't believe this on Saturday Night Live.
You, of all people,
of all
you.
people, And Seinfeld was always, because Jerry had, this spectacular confidence even way before he made it. You just see, I met him in like 1980. He was in his suit and he had it all together.
Yeah, I've always heard that.
And then when I got on SNL and went to some award show for comedians or something, he just walked up and goes, congratulations, you made it, and just walked away. It wasn't no envy, nothing, but show business is like, have you had that experience? Because what I was going to ask you is this, and it goes to an overarching theme of how you do your performance. When you were coming up through in the clubs, because a lot of times the blender's going, you got to follow a dick joke guy,
Sure.
And so how did you survive those days before you became?
Well, it was funny. It's like, I remember, because I was a writer, when I was in high school, I saw Stephen Wright live at the Cape Cod Melody Tent.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Before that, I'd watched SNL, I'd watched early Letterman.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I saw a comedian live, I was like, this is crazy.
And he was a different comedian,
like a
just
magician.
a perfect linesmith.
Yeah, it's like perfect comedian.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I want to do this. And then I just started writing jokes, and I had, notebooks of jokes. And then by the time when I was in college, I was working the door at the Washington D.C. Improv, and
great.
And great club.
Who came
and
through when you were a doorman?
It would be like Mitch Hedberg, David Tell, and Margaret Cho, and all these people who are great. Dave Chappelle and Brian Regan, and it was great. And then when I would work the road after I was 22 after college, I was working like hard gigs, and I remember like I would open for these guys. And I remember one guy, he just said to me, he goes, you're going to make it. Like I would do like not great.
Mm.
And he goes like, you're going to make it. And I was like, I literally go, why? Why do you think that?
That's a great question.
And he goes,
instead of thanks.
He goes, you're right. You write your jokes. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
That wasn't enough information.
No, there was a lot of road warriors that did a lot of dick jokes. One guy, I can't remember, but this guy was so hung, they call him the human tripod, in loud bars. And so to survive in that environment, you start to get louder and faster and bluer. Right. But you actually craft.
Maybe he's saying, you're a crafty writer. You're writing good material. It will surface because you're if you get a crowd that listens, I think that's what you need. And some people can do it with the sound off. So the way you write, it's sort of like Nate does right now. He gets a quiet crowd that listens and waits for him. And so I think over time, like I've never heard one negative thing about your act or anything. And usually
that's nice.
Usually it's me kind of starting the gossip.
I don't want
about
to fan out over you. I was watching
saying they're bad. You know what I mean? Just to get the thing rolling, just like, hey, it's kind of shitty, but I like some of it, but it's just, so I do that. But I think you've got a good rep out there, and I think that just grinds through and keeps your career going and keep getting better and better and better. That's a good thing to have because it's hard to stick around in the biz, as we all know.
I'd like to make an observation about that in a minute, but first I just want to know about your first set, because everyone remembers their first set.
So, it's funny. I just realized this. First set was funniest person on campus contest.
Love it.
At Georgetown University.
Love it.
Nick Kroll was in the contest with me.
Great comic.
And the host was Victoria Jackson.
Oh, really? That's a better story than I thought.
Love it. Love
You're
it.
so funny, Mike.
You're cute.
You're cute and funny up there. That's who she is. I mean,
I swear to God, I came off stage.
We love her.
I came off stage and it was like me doing a big character. There was a musical number. It was bananas.
Oh, you did a whole big giant thing.
Oh, back then? Yeah, good job.
And I walked off stage and Victoria Jackson, who, I idolized watching SNL.
Yes,
and
great.
She goes, "You're going to be a comedian."
I love it.
It was literally the first person in my life to tell me I'm going to be a comedian. I was like, I can't believe it.
But coming from someone famous, that means a lot.
It was great. It was a crazy experience because she, on SNL, she would obliterate.
Yeah.
She would kill in sketches. So hard.
And super cute.
So unique. I've said this before, but when I was in the 17th floor, and I think I had just gotten the show, and Victoria was there, and Lorne Michaels came up to me because he just had talked to her. And he said, "Dana, will you talk to Victoria and try to figure out what that's all about?" Because what
does that mean?
There's something funny there.
She's playing a character, but she wasn't. And that purity bounced off the screen on SNL. This innocence, this true innocence about her. But so what I was going to observe about, because we have stand-ups on this show, and as a stand-up, I'm pretty much good with a great stand-up for about 15 minutes. As Spade said at the 50th, I get the general gist. We know how but with you, and there's others, but it's personal. And so there's a through line in a story. I know, and I want to ask you about stand-up versus one-man show and the blurring of that. But I found myself really compelled of this idea when you tell maybe a story to your daughter, you make up a story, then she pauses and says, "And then what happens?" And so you subtly ride this narrative. And then you go for this moment where you just land a somber moment about your dad. You just say he felt sad, and it just sits there. And I'm like, so you're also balls out funny all the time. So it's very interesting. I found myself like, I'm literally going to finish it. I only got halfway through today because
thanks, man.
I want to know what happens. So it's anyway, that's all I had to observe. I'll let you guys talk now.
Well, that's definitely the goal. Like what happened was when I was in school, I was studying film and plays, like how to write screenwriting and playwriting. And I thought for sure when I got out of school, like being a delusional 20-year-old, I was like, I'm going to be a screenwriter. Yep. Of course, everyone wants me to write films.
All of Hollywood's waiting.
Yeah, they're all waiting. Everyone's just looking for scripts.
Hurry, get out of school.
Yeah, and so and so then the closer I got to graduation, the more I would talk to people in the business or adjacent to the business, and they're like, "Yeah, no one wants movie scripts at all, especially not from you, who has no credits or credibility." And someone said to me, and I thought it was good advice. They were like, "You should just keep doing stand-up because you're working the door and you're pretty good at it." And then eventually you'll be able to make movies. And so along the way, I started kind of merging playwriting and stand-up into a thing. And so when I think of the shows, I think of them kind of like what you're describing, like movies. Like in a movie, you have to have the scene lead to the next scene, so then the next scene, so then the next scene. And if it doesn't have that propulsion, you just shut it off. Like
people fade out.
Well, you're surviving laugh to laugh. Then the ultimate opposite of this.
Yeah,
but then I go. Like I think where I met Spade was over at the Comedy Cellar one night, like maybe a year or two ago, and that's where I work out the joke part of it because that's important too. Like you have to have the jokes work in isolation with audience members that aren't there to see you. That's the goal.
That's true. And then because it's different than stand-up, because stand-up is literally like if you go 30 seconds without some sort of laugh, you're like, what's going on? But if you have a one-man show and you're doing it like a story, you can have ups and downs and parts that are sort of dramatic. Is that what you're saying? Kind of?
Yeah. And like, I was lucky about, I don't know, 15 years ago, 17 years ago, I met up with Ira Glass, who's the host of This American Life on public radio. And he kind of taught me how to shape individual like 8 to 10 minute stories. And I was doing this Moth storytelling series in New York. And so over the years, I got kind of hooked on this idea of like, oh, if you can have the jokes work and the story work and the larger show work, then like it's kind of a magical thing.
Who else is doing what you're doing of your generation? I mean, I know you knew John Mulaney, or John Mulaney and Nick Kroll and stuff. And is anyone else? Because it seems like you kind of stick out in this way right now. Well, if you consider yourself as a stand-up, but you're also a one-man show guy. So,
well, I produced Alex Edelman's show, which is called Just for Us, and it's definitely kind of in that vein. Okay. I mean, like. Jacqueline Novak. I produced Jacqueline Novak's show, Get on Your Knees, which is a little bit in that vein. Yeah, it was at Largo a lot, like in the last few years, and really funny. And
title's a bit, leading.
Billy Crystal had, I think it was called 1,000 Sundays.
That's right. That's right. Billy Crystal does it really well.
Which had a narrative. Yeah,
he's fantastic. John Leguizamo does it, who's really good. He's another one. But like the format is actually really big in England. Like Edinburgh, like I went to Edinburgh Fringe Festival a few years ago for the first time. I had never gone. And I was like, oh, like 100 people are doing shows like this simultaneously, but it's just never really caught on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because with stand-up specials, I don't know now, but a few years back, it'd be like, you'd have maybe a current event chunk, or you'd have relationship chunk. And then you might have driving in cars, and how dogs are different from cats. And it would be sort of an archetypal kind of, and then when it's one through narrative with all its different tributaries, I don't know. It sounds fun. If I wasn't lazy and went to College of San Mateo, I would do what you do.
Dummy alert.
You should though. I mean, you have a lot of great raw materials for it, because you had that whole health scare in the a few years ago. Like the things that you could talk about are endless.
That's true. All right, thank you.
That is true.
I've distilled it now to just kind of going back to sounds and trying to get people involved with abstraction. So it's a wholly different course, but I want them, like in junior college with my friends who were stoned, I would do a Star Trek bit and it would go on for 10 minutes and stuff like that. I've just I've gone full circle.
You can do your thing about the hospital and play all your organs. Just give them all like a little personality.
Hey, man, it was a bypass. 2 words that don't belong together. But he got 1 out of the 2 arteries right, so he's 50-50. You can't judge it.
Listen.
So,
that'll keep you in the NBA.
I mean, in a way, Shandling did it to a degree, right? Like he was very personal. It didn't have an arc necessarily, but like it was just very personal.
That's it. When it's personal, that's also another thing that attaches. If it's just abstract jokes, but when it's personal, I don't know, who do you like out there right now? And I was going to ask you about this phenomenon of people in the last 6-8 years playing stadiums or arenas. Like it was not so common 20 years ago. So what is that about? And would you like to play Madison Square Garden?
I feel like there's a handful, like, I'm trying to think, like Atsuko Akatsuka, who has an HBO special, I think is really, really funny. I think there's this guy, Chris Fleming, out in LA, who's from Massachusetts, really, really funny. I mean, I like, I love Tig Notaro. I mean, she's in my sort of class. We sort of
personal,
been doing shows. Yeah, very personal. But it's weird. The stadium thing feels like it's got to end, right?
I feel bad when I'm going to Tempe next month, and people are like, oh, Sun Devil Stadium. I go, no, I'm playing a theater. They're like, oh. I guess a lot of people are playing Sun Devil Stadium. Like a lot of people are one.
One guy is playing, I won't say who he is, he's playing Nebraska. They're setting up
the whole
stage
state?
in the north border of Nebraska. They have They have speakers all throughout the state.
That's good.
So
That's
he's
big.
booked Nebraska.
That's a pretty
I made
big
that
state.
up. I hope.
Wow.
I would play the Four Corners.
I saw, I think, one or two shows at Madison Square Garden of comedy, and I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't allure me, but I like I filmed my special at the Beacon Theater. To me, that's like the perfect big venue.
Yeah, it's
like 2,700 seats.
Would your
Yeah.
acts work in a big 10,000 seater? Was it the same thing, or is it too small to listen to? I have trouble.
I think with
stuff.
screens, I mean, because Nate is similar in some ways, but I think the screens must do it. I suppose. Otherwise, how?
Yeah, because I opened for Jon Stewart years ago at Merriweather Post Pavilion. That was like 9,000 people, and it was good. It's just like you're playing for television.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the screens. It's like you're just projected
and you're
onto
pausing
a 40-foot screen. Yeah.
I think it's great for your pocketbook, but it's not. I mean, if money wasn't any concern or anything, what is your favorite size room just for you having fun?
I mean, what's funny is in LA, I don't know if you guys go over there much, but like
Largo,
I think Largo is the
that's what I thought you
best
were gonna
comedy
say.
room.
300.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And then in New York, the Comedy Cellar is unbelievable. It's 140 seats in a basement.
Yeah. I really think that just the compression of the energy, and it feeds around. And so for me, especially because I'll just get into some rhythm, and if I'm getting that energy, I'm just going to keep riding it, with some character. And so I do like 100-seater, 80-seater, low ceilings, for fun. That's fun.
Yeah, like probably my favorite thing I've ever done in comedy is like being at the Cellar and Chris Rock pops in and you're seeing him in front of 140 people like work out new ideas. You're just like, this is the craziest thing. It's like a fantasy sequence as a comedy fan.
Yeah. That's the fun of the Cellar. I think is wide. It's about 3 feet deep. And like if you go to the restroom in there, I think Colin was on last time I was there. And I had to go pee, and I'm like, no, because he'll see me for sure. It's just distracting. Like you have to walk right in front of him and everyone, and it's so small that it's too obvious. I have a question about that table the comics sit at. That's always curious to me. Who's allowed at that table?
That's a really good
Comedy
question.
Cellar.
I think even barely the comics are
barely?
allowed at the comics table. Yeah. I would say some of the comics are allowed at the comics table. No, I mean, I love that place.
Table?
Here's what I'll say. It's one
Here's
table.
what I'll say.
There's an auxiliary table.
There's
an
a
auxiliary
spillover table.
Yeah, there's a spillover. Okay. I think that, when I was in my 20s and I was playing there, I would get, it's the early 2000s. I would get murdered by, Patrice O'Neill and Bill Burr and all those, Colin Quinn. Like it was all the tough crowd guys, Greg Giraldo.
Yeah.
And they would just rip me to shreds. I mean, it was a different
You mean
era.
if you sat there, or they would just give you shit? That's who was sort of.
Yeah, if I sat there, they would just give me shit.
I love it.
Or even like Jimmy Norton was like that. He was in that group, and I love these guys. But like back then, like because I was like this wide-eyed kid. It's funny. I remember one time Todd Glass, who I know, you guys know Todd. He's a brilliant comic.
Funny.
He was visiting me in town, and he came and he saw those guys just rip me apart at the table, like. And he couldn't believe it. Like, I don't think he'd ever seen anything like it. So and he was like, why do they talk to you like that? And I go, I don't know, man. I'm new, I'm young, whatever. And then he brought up you, Spade. He goes, the only other person I saw this happen to was David Spade. Because when he came to LA, he was immediately really good and young, and he got a lot of stuff fast. And so people like came at him really fast. Is that true? I've never even asked you.
That's sort of the way of the world. But yeah, that was at the Improv. And the worst part was I was like, they're like, you're doing a movie already? I go, I guess. Aren't you supposed to? Is that... I mean, I've done 5 sets. I've paid my dues. But the Improv was a place where like it goes back to you saying you want to write movies, but to do stand-up was good advice because you have to somehow be in front of people doing something because people won't see you when they go, people in my acting class are like, oh, I don't do commercials. I don't do soap operas. I don't do this or TV shows. You go, if you're good, they will find you, but you have to be in front of something. You could find someone good even in a commercial. You go, or they just catch your eye. You have to be out there. And to stand up, you get to be at the Improv if you get on, or the Store now, and the Cellar obviously is very famous. But there's always someone, even if it's other comedians, like they might be writing something. You know who'd be good? This guy, because you're in front of them. And so I got stuff because casting people would just drift into the Improv and go, "Oh, I wasn't even here to see this guy." But they'll just grab somebody and go, "Oh, they'd fit. You know, we should." And that really helped me.
You did not look like a regular stand-up, David. You know, you had the long surfer blonde hair. You looked maybe 16 when you were 22.
Yeah. I watched Spade when I was in college. I watched your half hour, and it was
I love
perfect.
it. Thank you.
It was like a perfect half hour. You were like, you were probably young with that half hour.
Man. That was so great because I didn't realize that was one of the reasons I got spots at the Improv, because the chalkboard lineup, they wrote on the chalkboard in the old days, and it was Kevin Nealon and Leno and Seinfeld and Richard Belzer, and just guys that did not look like me. And I was just from Arizona. I was 20, and I had long blonde hair. So I think Bud Friedman was like, "Oh, we need one of you. You just look different. Just get up there and mumble around. I don't care."
Oh, sure. I do think there's no greater calling card than stand-up. If they know you wrote it, they can see you can land a joke, and in your case, they could see you're an actor. You could definitely, and you've done movies and stuff. Sleepwalk with Me.
Do you bring that corkboard into your meetings to show how hard you work?
Is that full of Saturday Night Live sketches?
The yellow ones are the funniest.
It's just all jokes.
The pink ones are under construction.
It's literally just,
Are those your ideas, random ideas?
Yeah, that goes back to when I was 18 years old and I started writing jokes and just putting them on note cards on my wall. I still do it.
Well, they want me to have a background here, so I'm going to do that. I think it looks really
just a photo of that.
Yeah.
It looks like very professional. Like, I'm so fucking busy.
If you could take a picture of that, send it to me. I'll blow it up.
You know
and
what's
put it
funny
behind
about that is that it shows people that it's hard enough to do your act when you see it polished. This is the shit that you're doing all day to get something that works for 30 seconds. Like, to get anything that works is so hard.
No, I always say that to people who are starting out in comedy. It's like, I write 4 hours of comedy to do an hour of comedy.
And even now, when you have a good feel for it, and before you'd write something, it'd be like a random thing would work. But now you go, I think in my head, this will work. I did that last week, so I have to work on new stuff. And I'm like, these 3 will work. And two didn't. And I'm like, why at this point do I still not know for sure what will work? It's so confounding sometimes.
Mike, have you ever written a bit or a piece of your special or whatever where you kind of thought, well, I don't know if I'm ever going to write something that lands this beautifully, like full circle,
I think like, my sleepwalking story is like that, and to an extent, which is like, basically 20 years ago, I sleepwalked through a second story window at a La Quinta Inn.
Did you fall?
I've
seen it. Did you fall?
Yeah, I jumped through the glass.
Okay.
And because I had a dream there was a guided missile headed towards my room, and they told me the missile coordinates were set on me. And so in my dream, and as it turns out in my life, because I was diagnosed with this thing called RBD, REM behavior disorder, I jumped through the window and I landed on the front lawn of the motel.
Oh.
I took a fall. I kept running, and I'm running. I'm slowly realizing I'm on the front lawn of La Quinta Inn in Walla Walla, Washington, in my underwear, bleeding. And the strangest thing is, in that moment, I was relieved that I hadn't been hit by the missile.
Right.
I was like,
so I could see
that would have been a disaster.
That story I could see where it's like, it's so nobody else goes, hey, I've heard that from a lot of
I've got one like that.
Everybody jumps through a window,
Super 8.
Especially La Quinta. But no, I could see where you're kind of like, that's why, you did a movie as well, right?
And you did, and you put mittens on after that? Is that the rumor?
For a period of time, I wore a sleeping bag. A doctor told me to do this: wear a sleeping bag up to my neck and wear mittens so I can't open the sleeping bag.
So awesome.
So I did that for years. For years, I did that.
Did he say,
I don't do it
stay
anymore.
away from missiles?
He said say
Yeah, that's
missiles
probably
in
the
the sleeping bag
smartest.
as well.
And
Yeah,
maybe think about the Holiday Inn next time. I don't
Maybe
Yeah,
the
yeah.
first floor.
I don't trust La Quinta. So one thing I'm kind of curious about you, because I don't know in specific, like you in your career, like when was the first time you knew, okay, I'm going to make enough money. This is now my job after you graduate college. Okay, I'm good. This is what I'm going to do with my life.
I remember I had like one of those calendars from Staples, and
Yeah.
I would go through and I would in highlighter if I had a club week booked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it'd be like San Jose Improv, and it would be like, and you'd write in parentheses like 300. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like $300
for 9 shows, yeah, or whatever.
And then, it'd be like Cincinnati Go Bananas, 325.
Fuck,
like
it's going up.
Such such a small amount of money. And you would just, and every month I would go, if I can just make $1,325, I can pay my rent.
Again.
And it was probably like, I would say like a year into moving to New York, where I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And then,
But were you going in and out of town?
yeah, I was driving my mom's station wagon that had like 130,000 miles on it.
To gigs.
all
A
over
lot
the
of them on the East
country.
Coast, thank God, right?
So when you were traveling like that, were you the MC or the opener or co-headliner?
I was the MC or the feature.
Okay.
I was the MC or the feature.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've just opened I opened for Hedberg a bunch of times. I remember I opened for Jake
Yeah, that's
Johansson, who was a brilliant comic.
Know him well
Yeah.
from San Francisco.
Oh my God.
It's like comedy school, like
And,
Hedberg. You go, fuck,
yeah.
I get to sit in the side and watch this.
It's crazy. That was my favorite part of it. And then I got Letterman from
Ooh.
doing Montreal Comedy Festival. I did Montreal Comedy Festival in New Faces when I was 23.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
Eddie Brill saw me and was like, I think we could work on a set for Letterman. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, this is literally between SNL and Letterman. That's like all I grew up
Sure.
on. So I was like, this is crazy. And then it was like a year later.
Letterman's
I did Letterman.
big.
So 24, you're doing a set on Letterman.
Yeah, it was bananas.
And for the
Wow.
crowd
It
at
was
home, it takes a year to buff out a set. Right? It does. It takes a long time.
Oh, yeah, for
They
sure.
have to keep seeing you and go, change that word. I'd put that sentence at the end. I'd open for the, and you're like, it'll do
What
good. And
was
then the fear factor going on of Letterman.
I know.
must-
What was your
Yeah.
headspace behind the curtain and you hear Letterman announce you? How were you? You were.
I remember
that's nerve.
I remember they came up and they go, do you want cue cards with your jokes of your jokes?
Ah.
And I go, no, I think I know the jokes.
Oh.
And then my brother Joe was there with me. And Joe goes, yeah, he wants the cue cards. Like he likes time to. And then I swear to God, I said my first joke. My brain, you're standing on like this like circle in the
Yeah.
middle of the Ed Sullivan
Shiny
Theater on the
black
stage.
floor.
The moment I said one joke, I forgot everything in my act. And I was like, I am so fucked right now. I am completely and totally fucked. And I look up at the cue card and I'm like, there's the other jokes.
What does it mean by says McDonald's? And you go, oh, I know what that means. Folks, I went to McDonald's last night.
We're good. And was it a
Travel.
He didn't invite people to the couch, but how good was that set? Was it good enough or
It
very
was-
good?
I think it was good enough. I think it was like, my agent, who was a new agent at the time, like he was kind of, he and I were the same age, which is always good. It's so funny when people always ask you, like, how do you get an agent? It's like, well, try to find someone who has like no career.
No clients.
You know what I mean? No clients.
Yeah.
And now he's like the biggest agent there is. Like he,
Mhm.
Mulaney and Kevin Hart and all these huge
Who was it,
people.
Dave
but at the
Becky?
time, it was Mike Berkowitz.
Mike Berkowitz. Okay. Oh, big.
But at the time he had nobody, and it was me. He had me and Greg Giraldo. That's who he had,
Okay. No, great.
and who was a brilliant comic.
Great comment.
And he was like, well, I could market you as like the youngest comic to ever do Letterman, which was a lie. It was like fully a lie.
I can think of lies.
So
It sounds good. And you,
yeah. So I would go to like Joker's Comedy Club in Dayton, which is like attached to like a strip club, and like and sells like dildos and dildo straws in the lobby, and they
Straws?
and they would have, it was like for bachelorette parties
Yeah,
and that kind of thing. And then they would and then it would be marketed as like the youngest guy to be on Letterman. It was like literally a lie. It was just
not
a full
even
lie.
funny.
Yeah, not funny, not even.
But young.
But young. And then I figured out how to do an hour. But it's funny because when you're starting out, and I did I must have done like 175 colleges, like the one that you and I did in Rhode Island. But like, I feel like you figure out how to do an hour of comedy when they tell you have to do an hour of comedy.
Yeah, it's fucking hard. It's so
I'm sure
much.
you guys dealt with this.
I had the exact same thing because I was there just for a second and when the clubs were just being built, basically. So I think it was Laughs Unlimited in Sacramento, and not everyone had. I didn't have the time. They go, well, we'll headline you, but you need to do an hour. So that's why I got the guitar and did a few things, and I had props. I mean, I did anything to grab time. So go ahead.
But were you headlining on SNL? Because I got SNL as a middle. So when I got enough fame to go, it was gradual. But when I got to headline, I'm like, I don't think I got fucking headline. I barely have. I did my longest middle set was like 35. And then you got to go to an hour. And I'm like, an hour or 40? 45 is good. And they go, yeah, maybe an hour. We'll put the checks out. What about when they put the checks out and it stops your act in its tracks and you go, what? Everyone just
I remember I had done this show called Premium Blend on Comedy Central.
Oh yeah.
And someone saw me on it and booked me at a long defunct club called the Comedy Spot in Schaumburg, Illinois. And they just fully emailed me from my website, hey, can you come headline our club? I was, you're delusional when you're a kid. You're just like, oh, absolutely.
Just say yes.
I'll be there next week. I show up. First of all, no one shows up. No one's heard of me. It's like completely empty. It's like a new club. And I have 25 minutes of material. I mean, they're literally like, so you do an hour, the opener does 10. And I was like, okay, sounds good. I go out, I'm fully through my act at a half hour. And and that's what's weird is that's how you learn how to do crowd work.
You have to. I was going to say, you got to go to the crowd.
Yeah.
Where you been? Where are you from? Yeah. Did you when you went on Letterman, did you have special clothes, or did you buy a jacket for the show, or did you just wear your regular clothes?
No, that was the whole thing. Is they always said you have to wear a suit because Dave likes. He's like old fashioned.
He likes the
show
Seinfeld
business.
look, right?
Dave likes when you wear a suit, and so I bought my my first suit.
That's kind of cool though, but sometimes it's bad because I don't think me or Dana would be fully relaxed in a suit when you're always wearing something else on set. I go, what is the closest to what I always wear to make everything the same as a club? Because when I did my first TV spot, I walked out and I did like you with the cue cards. I was staring at the shiny floor and the crowd and the cameras going, I couldn't even think of my act. I was like, holy shit, this is what it looks like out here? I'm always looking this way. And then I'm like, deer in headlights. And they're like, go ahead and go. And I'm like, oh, okay. What else?
Yeah. I had a related thing with you, Spade, because I remember hearing you talk about when you would do Hollywood Minute on SNL and the people were mad. Because you're making fun of real people.
Yeah, they weren't really pulling for me.
You started an industry, kind of,
Yeah. Like, I remember doing a show on one of those VH1 Talking Heads shows.
Yeah.
And they were like, what do you think of Huey Lewis and the News? And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. He sucks, whatever the joke was. And I got an email from like a whole bunch of Huey Lewis heads who were just like, you fucking suck. Who the fuck are you? We don't know who you are. We love Huey Lewis. What of you? Who are you?
I got a lot of that because I was new. It was actually funnier that I was new and making fun of people because it was so out of the blue. But I always say it was the era of People magazine where celebrities were so adored and you forget that they're all trash now. But when back then to say, you see this movie? Yeah. Didn't they kind of suck in that? And everyone's like, wait, what? Why would you just said they were bad in something? And you're like, yeah, my friends went to that. It fucking sucks.
Boy, it's
and you're like, this is how real people talk. But they went, Ian, you know who helped me with Hollywood Minute? Bob Odenkirk.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, it's hilarious.
That's sort of the secret of Bob is he's like a silent killer. Yeah. Right.
And he's
like super nice Midwestern. And then behind the scenes, he's like, actually.
And he's smart. And he said, maybe frame it like, we were trying different things. I think it was like, guess what? You're an idiot. Like we were doing stuff about celebrities. And I think it was Michael Bolton. We know you got long hair in the back, but guess what? We all know what's happening on top. because it was like really thin up here.
Bob Odenkirk, and I think it was Smigel and myself, but they had, and I think it was primarily Bob, the grumpy old man that I did on SNL. Was the reverse of what you would expect, because the guy's like, we didn't have flame retardant sleepwear. If you went to bed smoking, you woke up engulfed in flames. Look at me, whoop-de-doo. I'm a flaming corpse, and I like it. I love it. And that was all Bob. It was such a weird twist on the classic old guy. I just wanted to insert for a second, because it's in my head, that wearing suits on talk shows. So initially I'd wear kind of a loose shirt, sometimes a t-shirt, a leather jacket, because the host was always older than me. It was either Leno or Carson or Letterman. And then when the host became older than me, like Jimmy Fallon in a suit, I can't wear a t-shirt. I'm older than him. I'm older than him. So then I switched to the suit. I just wanted to tell you that.
I remember I was so starstruck. I was opening for Pablo Francisco at Caroline's.
Guy's a killer.
Unbelievable comic.
Killer.
And Jimmy Fallon came because they had been in an acting class together. And that was another one where like Jimmy Fallon was there and he came up to me, and I'm friends with Jimmy, still today, but like he came up to me afterwards and he was like, you're going to do this. You're going to do this. Like, you're going to make it, and I feel like sometimes that kind of thing, like the Victoria Jackson thing and the Fallon thing, like it does kind of get you through the hard.
It resonates. Someone real in show business said I was good.
That's right.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah.
Now, this was a
Jimmy
week
told
ago.
me about that. Yeah. Jimmy told me about meeting you and thought you were going to make it. And I said, you really think he's going to make it? I didn't tell him make it, but it's crazy. Sorry. I just do it. I do him as a sound. It's crazy. Sure. Yeah, I was going to ask you just this sort of overarching joke. Like, where are you now? Right now? Now you're going on tour? And when does this special come out on Netflix?
Is this The Good Life?
Comes out. The Good Life. The Good Life is out. I think by the time this comes out, May 26th.
Okay.
So
it's May 26th, The Good Life, Netflix.
On Netflix, and then I'm writing my next movie. My first movie was Sleepwalk with me. My second movie is called Don't Think Twice, and I'm writing a third movie, which is like an ensemble comedy that takes place at a wedding about a bunch of old friends, and I'm just psyched about it. Like I'm taking some time off from stand up. I'm doing a few shows with Mulaney this summer, being Fred Armisen and Nick Kroll and Mulaney are doing a bunch of outdoor shows this summer in Canada and Maine.
Fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just I feel like you never get to do shows when you headline as a comedian. You never get to hang with your friends doing shows. So I love that we're just doing a bunch of shows.
And you're
together.
Just in the mix there. You don't necessarily close or open. You're just going to be.
I'm not closing. No, I don't want to close.
It's still stressful for John. Even though it's fun, he's got to go out there and mop up.
John knows what he's doing up there.
John's a killer.
Yeah, he's a killer. So you're. I just want to ask for a second, like when you write a movie, do you have like 3 bulletin boards? First act, second act, third act. You start putting up ideas, or you're writing it. Like a story.
I do 2 bulletin boards. I go the story cards, the scene cards, and then the other one is the characters.
Right.
I listen to this great, if any aspiring screenwriters, I listen to this podcast for years that John August and Craig Mazin do called Script Notes. And it's like 600 episodes about screenwriting. Craig Mazin did The Last of Us. He wrote The Last of Us and directed it.
Amazing.
John August did Big Fish. Like, they're just like great writers. And, I just think like, I try to just think about everything. The reason I do the character bulletin board is like, I always try to think of everything being in relation to like, what would the character do as opposed to like, what would happen to the character.
And would you direct this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd be
that would be the ultimate creative play boxes or toy box I can see is to write and direct a movie. Get all the toys out there, all the actors, all the stuff, and then try to visualize your dream, basically.
Totally. I mean, like when I think about my favorite stuff, it's like, like James L. Brooks movies, like Broadcast News and Terms of Endearment. Yeah,
As
it's like
Good as It
you know,
Gets. What was that? No.
yeah, I just Mike Nichols' career. I love I love the idea of just directing a bunch of movies, and I hope that
And Kramer versus Kramer, or The Graduate, or
Oh yeah,
I'm just trying to
oh my
think in the
God.
sensibility that you're going for.
Great.
Yeah, I would say close to the Graduate. Like I just love movies, and I feel this way about my specials too. I love things that have jokes and jokes and jokes, and then they kind of get you when you don't expect it emotionally.
Tootsie
Was great.
big broad comedy, but has all
when
this,
the dad has to sit Dustin Hoffman down at the end and talk to him was.
But
because
you know what's another one, by the way? Trains, Planes, and Automobiles.
Sure.
I feel like is like that. Obviously Tommy Boy is that.
Tommy Boy has a little.
Well, that is true. We talked about Tommy Boy recently with the director and Chris at the end in the sailboat talking to his dad and stuff. I mean, it had that.
That was like a late addition, like how to wrap him up and how to make it all make sense, and it was so important.
The lore of Tommy Boy, because that's such an iconic movie for me. It's like the lore of you guys talking about how you were just doing it like on like weekdays. You'd fly to Canada and, during SNL, and then you'd fly back. Like, what the hell? Like, doesn't make any sense.
It's why we're all crazy.
Sometimes in comedy, I don't know in your particular style, but sometimes money can get in the way, and too many days to shoot can get in the way. The first Wayne's World was such a low budget, 25 or 30 days. We just kept going. But in your case, how many pages will your script be?
Yeah.
When you're ready to shoot,
it'll be 100. It'll be probably 100 pages, and we'll probably shoot it. Look, they'll probably say it'll be 25 days, and I'll just fight to try to get 28, 29 days. I mean, that's the thing that's so hard to explain about making movies. It's like you're just begging for time. You're just like, please, because you're just bleeding money.
You're going to miss something. You don't want to miss anything. You're like, I need one more take on this. I need one more location just to make everything better. If we could just, we need this. We need it. Yeah.
Would you have somebody like do a rough edit after every day, like a really quick digital edit so you can kind of see what you got?
Our editor was this guy named Jeffrey Richmond who actually edits Severance, which is a brilliant show. And he would do assemblies, but a lot of it would be he'd be like, hey, if you can go back into the kitchen and shoot a thing where she says, like, I don't have the hammer, that would really help us have this whole fucking thing make sense.
That's better than reshoots.
Smart.
I mean,
Smart.
then exactly. If the kitchen set is still around, you
exactly.
Yeah. So basically, just to sum up on this, it's like you're busy. Life is good.
Yep. Good life. Netflix.
Right now for you creatively, it seems like you're very engaged and excited about this movie and everything you're doing. And you have plenty of work.
I'm excited about the special. Yeah. I'm excited to make my next movie. And I'm lucky. I live in Brooklyn with my wife and daughter. She just turned 10. We had like a birthday sleepover this weekend. The girls watched Clueless. It was great. I mean, it was just like,
is that 90s Clueless?
One. Yeah.
And see, those John Hughes, all those movies you can show as your daughter and as they
hopefully
10,
they
11,
like
12,
them all.
13.
Yeah.
Pretty in Pink, all those movies are just
she just started watching SNL, and so like it's really fun to watch her like get why it's fun. Like get why the live aspect of SNL is kind of the best part of it. That it's just messy.
And everyone's in a costume or wearing a fake nose or whatever. And it's just, it's silly and ridiculous. It's a lot of pressure, but there's not much more fun you can have if you're in a good sketch on SNL and it's really doing well. It's pretty buzzy because it's going out live to a lot of people.
Well, thanks, Mike. It's great to see you again. And thanks for coming on with us.
Yeah. We enjoyed chatting with you, and say hello to John Mulaney and Nick Kroll or whoever else you're out there with.
All right. Thanks a lot, you guys. Just love the podcast, and I am honored to come on.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Now I'm going to go watch the rest of your special.
Amazing. Thank you.
All right, be well.
All right. I'll see you guys soon.
Take care.
This has been a presentation of Audacy. Please follow, subscribe, leave a like, a review, all the stuff. Smash that button, whatever it is, wherever you get your podcasts. Fly on the Wall is executive produced by Dana Carvey and David Spade, Jenna Weiss Berman of Audacy, and Heather Santoro. The show's lead producer is Greg Holtzman.